All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Two Veterans, Two Brothers, Two Views Talk Show, episode 8.
Yeah, 8.
Here to start it off, doing a talk show in 3D stream, 3D printer repair. As I mute myself because I'm echoing over here.
And don't forget to hit record, by the way.
Yeah, just do it the old-fashioned way.
We're starting off strong. My camera is now a mirror. There we go. Okay, good, beautiful. So, Goat, I guess we could start this off. How you doing today? How was your day?
Oh, good.
Yeah?
Typical day at work, trying not to choke people. You know.
Do anything out of the usual, out of the ordinary, out of the routine today?
At work?
Just in general.
I mean, this.
Yeah?
Right here? Hang on.
All right. So what are you working on there? What's the 3D printer repair gonna consist of today?
Can you hear that? Just.
Yeah, sounds like a drum.
Yeah. Tight as a snare drum.
Yeah.
That's what
Is that a good thing?
Yeah, because it's the LCD screen projects an image onto this, and the build plate presses up against it between the LCD screen. So there's just a paper-thin layer of resin between this snare drum piece of plastic and the UV light that cures the resin between it. That's how it prints. And I just put one in, but then I let the resin sit for so long.
Interesting.
I don't know if it'll come through. But you see, well, maybe not. No, it's not coming through. There's two little like dents in the plastic.
Oh, so that has to be like a perfectly straight, like.
I mean, yeah,
perfectly
basically.
level and flat surface.
I mean, not perfect, but it can't have dents in it. Like they're basically gouges that weren't big enough to like cause a leak, but it wouldn't be a pretty print.
Right. Yeah, it'd mess everything up.
Yeah, it's like that one little spot could potentially fuck up the entire print. As much as I didn't want to replace this thing again, because I barely printed like 3 things with that one before having to replace it.
Yeah, I wonder like how often you're supposed to replace those.
Well, there's mixed reviews on the internet. Like some people say you can print several hundred things, like once a year you'd have to replace it, and others are like every 20 prints. And I'm like, what? Like, that seems excessive. But I think it's just natural wear and tear, because it's literally hardening resin against it, and then it peels it off of it over and over and over and over. So I mean, it'll eventually start to get, used. It's kind of like reusing the same piece of actual cling wrap. Like, yeah, it technically works, but it's going to slowly, build residue and stuff on it from the food you're covering or condensation or whatnot.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, hopefully you'll start printing one of 2 May Veteran 3D prints here once I get this thing on here with its 17 screws. So, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, what are we talking about today? So, I've been in this kick. I've been watching like Young Sheldon, just kind of getting ready for the next season to get put on HBO Max. Because me and Shelby have watched all the way through, everything that's on HBO Max. So we're just kind of waiting on them to release the next season. So
everything
I've been watching
that's on HBO Max. Where do you get time to sleep?
No, Young Sheldon. Just every episode that they have on HBO Max of Young Sheldon.
Wouldn't that be a crazy feat? We've seen everything on HBO Max. We're waiting for the next thing to be added.
Yeah. No. Just Young Sheldon. And so I've been like in this science-y mood. So I figure today we could talk about 10 of the biggest science stories of this decade. Oh God, hold on.
decade. So
Yeah, past 10 years.
2020. Wait, yeah. So 2023 to 2013, or just 2020.
I think it is. So this article that I have pulled up was published in 2019. So up to 2019.
Oh, up to
So
so
yeah, up to
2010 to
yeah
2020, roughly.
yeah 2010 to 2020. And so I've already breezed through this article a little bit, read a little bit about everything, and there's some really really cool shit here that I think is exciting. Um,
You know, it's
the
as
first one
exciting.
is
This sound.
the dunk. um, so I'm pretty sure we've all heard at this point about they figured out a way to grow meat in a lab.
Yeah, we talked about the
Yeah,
meatball like on our
yeah,
first
yeah, yeah.
stream.
Yeah, so this all started back in 2010 when scientists at the J. Craig Venture Institute assembled the genome of bacterium out of more than 1 million base pairs of DNA, and they engineered um, this uh, organism. I mean, in 20, and they started out this kind of research and doing this back in 2010, and in 2017, they were able to make 5 synthetic yeast chromosomes. Um, and the plan is to replace all of the 16 chromosomes in yeast with synthetic chromosomes to be tweaked to perform, specific tasks such as making antibiotics or
Hmm.
growing meat.
So I always wonder about like where does that stuff come from?
As far as like what, like how they make it do specific things.
No, I mean like everything has to come from something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, I definitely don't think you can create life without life, right? Does that? I mean, if that makes sense.
No, I just meant like what do you make synthetic yeast out of?
Well, let's see. First 5 synthetic yeast chromosomes. Let me look.
Like, can I go to Walmart and get the ingredients for synthetic yeast?
No, probably not. To construct the synthetic genomes, the team first looked at computer files containing all the genetic data from natural baker's yeast. Next, they looked at the designer chromosomes, and they
Ta-da!
hoped to replicate and make changes to the reference genomes in the computer files. From there, the files are chopped up into smaller sequences that correspond to what can be made in a lab. So they took, this base design, and then they looked at, what about this, baker's yeast makes it, you know, make bread, right? If that makes any sense. And so they cut that part out and they tried to figure out what they could put in to make it do other things. Um,
Yeah.
from there, the team synthesized the individual base pairs or letters of DNA in a dish. They then used the templates to assemble small fragments of DNA, which were then put together. So they
So cute.
rearranged the DNA in this yeast to make it do different things.
There we go.
And like just to think about like how like I would love to see the tools that are small enough to move DNA.
Yeah,
Like
I
that's
mean,
that's mind blowing to me.
well, that's pretty much everything in biology. It's mind blowing. Like,
It's sorcery. It's magic.
of course, same people say the same thing about like fixing cars, but
Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. If you spend years studying it, it becomes
natural.
much more simple to understand. But yeah, I saw that one. I was like, that's pretty cool. And to know that now, like even though this article was published in 2019, that we're still advancing on these kinds of technologies because, like we talked about, we're actively using this process to do exactly what they had hoped to be doing back in 2110 when they started the whole project.
Start growing synthetic food.
Yeah. It's real meat, but it was not harvested from an animal, you know?
Real quick though, did you notice this mat that I have here?
Yeah,
I,
the
I just got
mouse pad
these.
looking
It's
black
a
mat.
thin silicone mats. Just got them in
Okay.
today for this kind of messy stuff. But I didn't even realize the benefit of like this. Like I can push this tray, trying to slide it, and it's moving the whole table rather than
Yeah,
move the tray.
nothing's like
Like,
slipping around. Yeah,
yeah,
I want to get like some of those mats and like cut them up into like small squares and like hot glue them to my cutting boards because my cutting boards just slip and slide
yeah,
all over my counters and I hate it.
yeah. It's pretty crazy. I got them just so I can stop making a mess over on the dresser workstation over here.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'll just use it here too. That way the screws aren't rolling around. But didn't realize I could literally just hold this thing in place.
Yeah.
Just thought that was impressive. Speaking of science,
Yeah.
sciencey junk,
Yeah.
little thin
Friction, man.
silicone mat. All right,
Yeah.
so,
More little on the different scientific on the different field of science here in 2012. They finally, some scientists at the Large Hadron Collider.
what's a hadron collider?
A Large Hadron Collider is a particle accelerator.
Oh,
Um,
oh, like atom splitter.
yeah, so they apparently uncovered evidence of the last and final undiscovered particle that was predicted by the standard model of physics. They ended up naming it the Higgs boson.
Wait,
Um,
I swear they talked about that in Big Bang Theory.
yeah, they did. They did. That actually happened. Um, um, so this particle is the particle that is associated with the Higgs field is an energy field at the root of why particles have mass. Particles gain mass by slogging across this three-dimensional field, creating tiny disturbances in the field. The stronger their interactions with the field, the more mass they have. When the field experiences a major energy flare-up in a particular spot, it emits a Higgs boson. Um, in 2013, physicists confirmed that their 2012 observations were actually the last undiscovered particle, so they proved it. And it's also called the God particle because of its role in giving all other particles mass, which is pretty crazy. Like without this particular particle, nothing has any mass.
Except for me,
It's
I'm an anomaly.
Yeah, and now they're starting to speculate that there's different like variations of these Higgs, um, like heavier and lighter, and
Yeah,
so they're now trying to see if they can determine and see a determination between
like the
these
goat
different
Higgs.
types of Higgs particles. And it's like you want to talk about rearranging DNA, like let's talk about this for a second. Could you imagine like seeing what a particle looks like? Like that's so infinitesimally small. Like I can't even imagine.
Just need a big ass microscope, man.
Big ass microscope. Yeah. I mean, this list has really got some interesting stuff in it, and it's got everything from like every field of science. So, I don't know. It's cool to think about, like, just because. I mean, I don't know. We live in a world these days where everybody thinks they know everything, and
Well,
it's nice to see that even in these days we're still learning new shit.
it's funny. I
You
was going to
know.
say the opposite. We live in a world where most people just take everything for granted. Like
I mean, well, yeah,
my
that
car
too, but
just goes. My phone
Yeah.
just works.
Well, yeah, that too, right? People, I mean, but that, I mean, the saying lies right there. I mean, ignorance is bliss, right?
Well, it's like I was telling you the other day, or I don't know if we talked about it on the stream, about how I'm working with people in other help desk that almost don't seem to understand internet is both via LAN cable and Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Like, I've literally had talks with people recently that are, in their 20s or 18 or older, because you have to be 18 or older to work in this industry, that are like, what do you mean you're online without Wi-Fi? it's
Yeah.
like, it's like, do you work in the internet industry? Why are we having this conversation? Like, just case in point of people that just take things for granted. Like, you work in the internet industry and don't even understand the concept of the fact that you can get online without Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you get into the people that know what is actually happening when you go online, like
I
how
know
that
that.
entire thing works, like DNS and, MAC addresses. And it's like, man.
So here's where the magic happens, right?
Oh, you're doing the resin pour. I mean, we gotta watch. I can see this. Oh yeah.
So I could probably, let's see. Let me do a quick modification.
What's the print?
I'm gonna test out a well, two for a veteran. Technically, I owe the one guy another Frostmourne sword because it broke, so I was gonna
Mm,
try and make another one. But also the same military truck that I made last month, they want a bigger one this month.
okay.
And since nobody else signed up, they're up. Where's this at?
So this one uh happened back in 2012. The history was made in 2013, but so are you familiar with Voyager 1, NASA's
I
space
mean,
probe?
I've heard of it, but I'm not like familiar with it.
Okay. So NASA sent out a probe, Voyager 1, to go and they just shot it into space and see what it would bring back. See what it can, transmit back. Um, they launched the probe in 1977. Um, and it's currently, as of August of 2022, it's approximately 14.6 billion miles away from our planet.
Which is what?
Oh, okay, I see what you're asking. So the history is in
Like, well, no, I mean, like,
2013,
what's the reference point? Like, how far away is Pluto?
the reference point is they back in 2013, the data that was received back from the probe suggested changes in electron density, which is a major clue that it had left the bounds of our solar system.
Huh. Well, so I'm terrible at this kind of stuff. So our solar system goes past Pluto, right?
No, our solar system ends with Pluto.
So it left the solar system.
Yeah, it left the solar
But
system.
how far past it?
Uh,
That's what I'm
I
curious. Like,
don't.
what's the distance between, like, say, Earth and Pluto? What's that? So
Let's see here.
give our viewers and myself a reference point.
So it's flown by Jupiter, it's flown by
So
Saturn and its moons.
Earth to Pluto is 3.1 billion miles from here. And how far away is the Voyager one?
Um, it was. Hold on, let me see. I had it. I just lost it. 14.6 billion miles.
God. Okay. So it's, was it 4 times? No, 14? So almost 5 times
Yeah,
the distance of here to Pluto.
yeah.
What's
So
crazy too is like, when was that made? When was
1977, it was
yeah,
launched into space.
crazy? Because it's like, how is something made in the one, multiple things here. One, how is something in the '70s still working? Which, granted, it it's space, so it doesn't have like moisture and things like that wearing and tearing on it.
Yeah,
But still, the fact that something from the '70s is still functioning, for one,
yeah,
with no maintenance, no nothing, just going, and still sending data back and forth.
yeah.
This is
So
mind blowing. We can't, fuck, I can't even keep a car or a phone working longer than 5 years before I gotta replace it. And I take good care of my stuff. But this hunk of junk from 1977 is still transmitting a signal 14 billion miles away.
yep, yep.
Like, it's mind blowing.
So they suspect. It's funny you say that because they suspect that it will continue to transmit data till probably about 2025, and then it'll just be gone. That we won't be able to get data from it anymore. It won't be able to control its location anymore. Um, so it just continues to float in space. The other cool part about that is once that happens, right? We included on that probe what we called a golden record, or what they called a golden record. Um, and it was a time capsule that has pictures of people, maps of our solar system, and other clues to the existence of civilization on Earth. So the hope, I guess, quote unquote hope, is that after this probe, stops submitting data and it just keeps floating through space,
Somebody will
eventually
eventually find it.
somebody will pick it up. Yeah.
Which, you know, makes you wonder, if you think about all the different like kinds of technology in the world, even just in our era, all the
Yeah.
different forms of media, everything from I mean, we'll just say my generation, a 3.5 inch or 5.5 inch floppy to
Yeah.
A-track to vinyl to CD, DVD, now MP3.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
or USB versus all the different types of things like that, micro SD and all that, where it's like,
Yeah. No,
man,
they've got SATA and NVMe and hard drive. Like, yeah. Hard drives to the point now are almost like they're archaic at this point. Like, people still use hard drives for like deep, heavy storage, but
yeah. Well, I just think about like, if you were to say 100 years from now, granted, I guess if you give it to like a scientist or an engineer, it'd be different. But if you like gave somebody a cassette tape and said, "Tell me what's on this," like,
yeah.
100 years from now, they'd just be like,
Yeah, they're going to be
"What?"
hard pressed.
But I mean, I guess that'd be again, that'd be a job for engineers and scientists, not Joe Bob on the street.
Yeah.
But it all depends on who finds it. If it fucking crashes in some farmer's field, he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, look, there's a golden frisbee."
Yeah. But that begs the question, though, right? Like, imagine, okay, imagine you are this, interstellar being that recovered this probe, right? And you look at the the time capsule, and you see the pictures, and whatever was included, watch the videos, a movie or whatever, right? And then you decide to come, and you show up, and you look at it now.
or,
Like,
or
how
then,
confused would you be?
I mean, I don't think you'd be confused.
Well, I mean, you have to remember this was all data and pictures and stuff gathered in the 70s.
Yeah.
We are in
You still
2023
have the
now.
same buildings, they just look a little different. Have the same cars, they just look a little different. The people look the same.
Yeah, I mean that's true.
I mean, it's like, yeah, I mean, our cities and stuff are getting bigger, but I mean, yeah, that's the same with any civilization. You're going to keep expanding and growing.
No.
It's not like you're going to all of a sudden come and we're going to look like a colony of ants.
Yeah.
Man, we're not going to like, I don't know. It'd have to be drastically different. It's not like the difference between, like, say, the Mayans and us or something. But who knows what it'll be, 100 years from now. It might be like the fucking Jetsons or something. We're living in little sky bubbles or something. Or, yeah, we might all move to Mars by then. But I don't think it would be that different. I mean, you can even go back to, say, the 20s to now. We're still...
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I don't know. I feel like things have changed significantly since like the 20s. If you were to go that far.
I mean, styles and stuff have changed, but I mean, we're still living in like brick houses and wooden houses. We still had cars. I mean, well, I mean, granted, the difference between like a Model A and a Lamborghini now is a little different, but it's still four wheels and an engine with a metal box.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, it's true. It's true. On the other side, on another space topic here, we were talking about the Big Bang Theory.
yeah,
Um,
the show, right? Not the
yeah.
concept.
Well, this actually talks. This article I read here is also talking about the actual theory. So before 2014, scientists only had like indirect evidence of the Big Bang Theory. Right? They had no like true proof.
Yeah.
But in 2014, for the first time, scientists observed direct evidence of this cosmic expansion, what some called a smoking gun for the beginning of the universe. And the evidence that they found came in the form of gravitational waves. So, like literal ripples in space-time left over from the Big Bang. These ripples generated changes in the polarization of the cosmic microwave background, which is radiation left over from the early universe. The polarization changes are called B modes, and it was those B modes that scientists detected using the Bicep 2 telescope in Antarctica. And since then, we're continuing to monitor these waves, and we are beginning to like understand more about like black holes and crashes between neutron stars, and they could actually even explain how fast the universe is expanding. Like that's
Which is
crazy to think about.
Yeah. Well, some of what you're reminding reminds me of, like, you ever go to the like science museums where you get to watch like the big globe projector up above you and whatnot, and we
They
watch
got one of those
one
here at the Houston Museum.
Yeah, we watched one of those semi recently, within like the last year or two.
Yeah.
And it was I think it was about like suns and universes or something. I think it was just like the different suns or something.
Yeah.
Then it like zoomed out, like how big our universe and stuff is. And it's crazy to think that it's that big, but it's also just crazy to think, like, how do we even know?
Yeah.
Like, I still can't wrap my head around how somebody sitting on Earth can somehow assess with a telescope or what have you how many like solar systems and galaxies are out there to make up the universe.
We don't. I don't think anybody claims to know.
They have them all named and everything.
Well, they haven't named everything. They've named what they've been able to see.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Well, granted, there's estimates that there's 100 to 200 billion galaxies in the observable
Yeah,
universe.
in the
Like, it's
observable
crazy
universe.
that it's even observable.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. Oh, I mean, that's the crazy thing, man. I don't. It's it's mind blowing, dude. When I was a lot younger, I used to confuse people, and they asked me what I wanted to do when I grew up, and I was like, I want to be a cosmologist, and they were like, so you want to cut hair? And I was like, oh god,
That's a
no.
cosmetologist.
That's a cosmetologist. I want to be a cosmologist. Stephen Hawking was a cosmologist. Neil deGrasse Tyson is a cosmologist. Like, I want to study space and the stars and the galaxies. Like, that shit is interesting.
It's crazy. So, like, again, like, coming back to those numbers, like the Milky Way, for example, something more close to home. The Milky Way galaxy is an averaged size galaxy and may contain at least 100 billion planets.
Yeah, but see, they're very careful with their wording there. It's may contain. It's like we don't know. We're just taking a guess based on what we can see. You know.
Well, like, again, I can't even wrap my head around some of these maths where they're like, this one galaxy is more than 50 times larger than the Milky Way. And I was like, how the hell did you possibly do that math?
Well, you can. I can tell you exactly how they can do that math. Because you can see there are defined edges and spaces between galaxies. This is known, right? Um, and so if you can, through these telescopes, see in the distance an entire galaxy, you can measure it and then extrapolate its actual size based on its distance from where it was being viewed from, and you can
Well,
extrapolate that
that's,
data into a real life actual legitimate
but that's
size.
what's crazy is trying to, how do you even estimate the distance between here and there?
Yeah,
It's just
that's
so many crazy math
yeah,
techniques involved in that it's like
yeah.
I'm
No,
over here struggling with my kids' fucking 8th grade algebra homework.
you know what
These
I think the
people are
crazy thing is.
calculating galaxy sizes and distances.
Yeah, I think, and the crazy thing is I bet you, if you could sit down with one of those people, they could explain it to you clear as day, because they know it. You know, they know it like the back of their hand. They've been studying it their whole fucking lives. You
Well,
know, it's like
and it's
me,
all
like trying to
estimates also. So
trying to talk to somebody about how to, change the spark plugs in your car. It's like I can verbally tell you, like, how to change them, what they do, why they're there, in a way that anybody can understand it. And I'd love to have the opportunity to sit down with some of these people and like ask those questions, like, okay, explain it to me like I'm 5. you know?
no, more like explain to her. Did you ever watch Event Horizon?
No.
Ah, well, they explained like jumping through a wormhole, and he was like, imagine like what's the shortest distance between A and B is a straight line. He's like,
Yeah.
well, unless you remove the distance between A and B, and he takes like a piece of paper and he's like, he draws A on one side, B on the other, and he's like, what's the shortest distance? And he's like, you draw a line between the two. He's like, unless you fold space, fold that
Yeah.
paper in half, and then punch a pencil through it, meaning
Yep.
the pencil's the ship, then you just, and you're there instantaneously.
Yeah.
It's, making your own wormhole. And that movie was
Yeah.
the concept of they basically made a black hole engine in the ship to generate wormholes. Crazy,
Yeah.
scary concept of having a portable black hole spaceship.
Well, it's funny.
But,
It's funny you bring up black holes because that's the next item on my list. This to me was, at least in my personal opinion, one of the most exciting things that we've discovered over the past decade or so. And it actually advanced just recently, I think a couple of months ago, actually. But back in 2019, so article reads, black holes have always been an astronomical fascination. We know they're there, but because light can't escape from beyond their event horizons, they're also sort of invisible. Um, until 2019, for the first time, scientists captured an image of a black hole. So they actually got a picture of one, which is unbelievable. And it looks like it's mainly black with like an orange, yellow, and red circle in the middle of it. It's a
Yeah,
kind
it
of
almost just looks like a sun.
yeah, it kind of looks like a sun, but with like nothing in the middle, like a sun donut. But anyway, so that was pretty cool. But then, like I said, like a few months ago, they actually were able to see inside of it. So something that we never thought was possible happened. Trying to find the article here.
I was looking at one article, but I was hoping for pictures.
Yeah, I'm looking at it
Yeah,
too. It's called the Event Horizon Telescope.
That's just all that too. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
what are the odds of it being called the Event Horizon Telescope?
Yeah. But that's crazy. So the picture, if you look up the picture and you see it, the kind of explanation on what you're looking at here, it's a black hole in the center of the Messier 87 galaxy. That's as wide as our entire solar system. The picture looks like a glowing donut of matter surrounding an abyss of blackness. This donut that you're seeing is the dust and gas orbiting the black hole's point of no return. Which is that's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, like the one picture's just fuzzy, where it's like,
yeah,
almost makes you wonder, like, how would you even know that's what it is?
yeah. But I mean, it's known. Like, we know that they exist, right? And we also know where some of them are. We know this, but we haven't been able to ever like image them.
Yeah, because it's just darkness.
Yeah, it's just black.
I always theorized like you would see like in a sense, like a void, like no stars behind it. It's just this awkward emptiness. But I guess by the time you're noticing that, it's probably too late.
And then on another side of things, we're talking about growing meat from in a lab. In 2018, we had been 3 years before 2018. We were able to, so 2015, we were able to edit non-viable human embryos. So it was like a gene editing thing. And in 2018, a Chinese scientist announced that he had edited the genomes of 2 embryos that were implanted in vitro fertilization into a mother's womb and born. And the 2 twin girls were the first ever genetically edited people.
But I mean, what did they do?
The edit he made was to a gene called CCR5, a change that theoretically should make the children less vulnerable to contracting HIV. Many scientists were appalled that he would take the step of gene editing in this context, particularly given the available and less technologically intense methods of avoiding HIV. But later, data released by researchers suggested that they'd actually induced a previously unknown mutation rather than reproducing a known mutation. So they tried to do this HIV thing, but it ended up not doing that.
I mean, on one hand, now, I get like wanting to, do that to like prevent diseases and stuff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, how are you going to test that? Are you going to give one of them HIV and see if they survive? Like what the fuck? Like, why not do something more simple? Like, let's see if we can give them red hair in a family that's never had red hair.
Yeah.
Like, shit. And like, okay, now that we got that on down, let's work on something a little bit more productive. Like, just weird that you went like, and not even maybe something more simple. Like, let's make it so they don't get like chicken pox or something. Like, no, you want something so crazy that it's like, you either get this and have it for life, or you're immune.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean and that's kind of why people were pissed, right? Because as of right now, the girls aren't showing any kind of side effects, and they don't know if there are going to be any side effects. But as of January 2019, the New York Times reported that he's likely going to face criminal charges in China.
So I guess it wasn't legal.
I guess so. Well, no, they say it's unclear under what laws he could be charged. So it's like, I mean, I don't know what we could charge him with, but this has got to be a problem somehow.
It is a, I don't know. I mean, I'm no scientist. For all I know, that's the easiest one to do, and that's why they picked that one. Yeah, but it does seem a little odd. You know, it's funny though. You know, on one hand, you know, I feel like it's a good thing that they're trying to make all these advances, like make immune superhumans. You know, but also, we're overpopulating the planet to the point of killing the planet. So it's like, do we really need to be making superhumans? Comments? Concerns?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. That's a tough thing. Like
That's kind of how I view all these, you know, advances in science. And it's like, yeah, we're advancing, but we're almost like advancing to a sooner death of the planet.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a flip side where it's like, great, more humans are surviving, but the planet's dying faster because of it. So
because more
who's winning here?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's kind
Yeah,
of,
I don't know. I think I don't know. It's rough. It's crazy to think about because like, what else are you gonna do? Just be happy with where we are now and continue life as it has been, or
no. I mean, we need to, honestly, as crazy as it might sound, or it would be, or whatever. Like, I almost feel like we would be better with like a world government that helps make the world a better place.
yeah, not just each individual nation.
But I mean, because I think of things like there's plenty of like sci-fi TV shows out there where it is like one world government, but then like each place is governed, like the states are in the United States. You got your own state government, and then you have the U.S. government. Same thing. You could have a world government and still have the state
you've got all
governments.
your different federal governments. You've got all your state governments, and then you have your planetary government.
But the problem is, our country is ran off of greed and money, not saving the world. So, I don't know what it would take for us to actually turn around to where we're not destroying the world faster than it can recover.
Yeah.
I mean, some of those advances are making, like the whole, synthetic food and stuff like that. That'll potentially help. But,
yeah.
But there's also, crazy things in the world. There's things right now that still blow my mind. And I'm no expert on the subject, but we'll talk about like trees versus hemp. Like, I've read articles in the past. I mean, I read these 20 years ago. Articles about how hemp literally even makes you more money.
Yeah.
Because it's like cheaper to grow, faster to grow, easier to process, more durable, has more actual like byproducts of it. Like every single thing about it is good for the people harvesting it, growing it, selling it, manufacturing it, turning it into products. Like It's better by every possible means. And yet we're still chopping down all the fucking trees in the world.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
like, wow, like, how do we justify this? And it's because, you think about it, the tree companies, like, well, I'm not going to, like, make that investment into changing everything when I already have this going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, this is already making me billions. I don't need to change. Until somebody makes me, I'm not going to change. It's
Yeah. I
kind
mean,
of it's kind of the
there's
same with, like,
definitely a
gas
lot of
engines and whatnot.
changes.
Like, there's a lot of advances we can make towards that too. But if the money's not there and the long term money isn't there, then nobody cares.
Well, I mean, but I can't really fight for the side of the electric vehicle things either
Well, no,
because
I'm not fighting electric. I'm just saying non-gasoline. Like,
oh yeah,
there's
like natural
hydro
gas.
engines and shit. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like,
Yeah.
there's engines that run off of fucking water, for Christ's sake. Like, come on.
It's like why can't we implement the recycling philosophy into fuel? Like why can't we have recyclable fuel?
Yeah. Or synthetic fuel.
Yeah, completely man-made fuel. Yeah, I mean I'm sure people are working on it. I'm almost positive.
Yeah. But
Somebody's
again,
working on
the
it.
oil
But
companies aren't going to stop, and the car
yeah,
companies aren't going to stop until they have
yeah,
to. Just like the
yeah,
trees. It's like,
yeah.
until they have to, it's not going to stop. And,
Well, yeah, I mean planned obsolescence has been a thing for forever. Like people design things to break after a certain amount of time. That's just how
well,
it's designed.
I mean, that's a whole nother factor. I'm just talking about the whole destroying the planet part. There's, we could stop cutting down trees. We could stop using gasoline, or maybe not stop using gasoline because there's a lot of kind of industrial type uses for fossil fuels. But as far as people, like standard individuals, we could stop cutting down trees and stop using fossil fuels
Yeah,
fairly easily. But it would take somebody else taking the time to invest that large chunk of money into it.
yeah,
But I mean, it's crazy to, like, you go down that rabbit hole of, like, overpopulation destroying the planet. Find the more, like, dark web type results, not Greenpeace results. And it's kind of crazy that we're just slowly digging our grave for the planet.
yeah.
But we'll dump billions of dollars into, like, hair coloring products and beauty products and shit. It's like multi-billion-dollar industry into making me look pretty.
Yeah, well, I mean that's all the thing, right? A lot of these conservationists don't really want to see the prosperity of the planet. They want to have a nice habitat to live in.
Yeah.
Like it's not about what can I do that'll last generations. It's what can I do to make myself more comfortable right now.
Yeah.
And if it's not going to happen before I'm dead, then I don't care.
I mean, again, I'm no expert on the subject by any means, other than just random articles I've read in my lifetime. But that hemp one versus trees has always kind of cracked me up. It's like, if it's so good,
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
I mean,
even from it makes me feel like something's wrong. Because it's like, yeah, there's going to be a huge investment and a huge everything for, like, say, a tree corporation to change over. But if it was such a greater profit margin, why wouldn't you make that like a 10, 20-year goal for yourself? Like,
yeah, I mean
let's set
nowadays,
aside X amount of money a year, and then in 10 years, we're going to open up a hemp company.
yeah.
Like, why
Well, I mean
wouldn't you
that's the
try and
thing.
make the transition if it was so much better?
That's the thing because right now anything that's got hemp on the label is automatically more expensive than anything else that's like it. Like something about just hemp makes it expensive. When I know that's It's not. It's probably a lot cheaper than the regular non-hemp version of whatever it is you're peddling. You know?
Well, I was just thinking of simple things from just like paper products.
Well,
You know,
yeah.
books, printers, schoolwork, like the billions and billions of pieces of paper or newspapers, magazines, all that, mail, envelopes, like all the paper products, even just sticky notes and shit. I mean, so many paper products in the world that you could transition into a hemp product.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think a big fear that people have is they still have this thing. It's like hemp. Oh, that's weed. That's illegal.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you idiot. It's not. And not only that, if you know what, I'm gonna derail. We were talking about derailing before the show. I'm derailing it for a second here. We're gonna talk about this because now I'm fired up. Do you know why marijuana is illegal
Well,
in
I mean,
most of the United States?
I know some of the originating history to it, but I don't have it
Okay, so
memorized.
what is the originating history, right? Like, what are the side effects of smoking marijuana? Loss of brain cells, laziness, things like that, right?
Well, I meant more like why the government deemed it illegal. It was
Yeah,
I watched it. I don't know if it was like a video or read an article or something years ago about it, and it kind of made me laugh because it's the same reason I kind of laugh about it now. Why alcohol is legal but marijuana
yeah.
isn't?
No kidding. Cigarette. You can smoke cigarettes, but I can't smoke pot.
Uh, no, I mean it's a little different. Like I'm saying, how
Marijuana
many?
doesn't give you cancer.
Well, no, I'm talking about the side effects of other people. So
Oh well, yeah.
if you look at like any statistics of like death caused by alcohol versus death by marijuana usage anyway, like being drunk versus being high.
Yeah.
Like let's just look at those statistics and be like, why is this one legal and this one isn't? Like
Right.
the
Exactly.
fuck?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then let's
Well, I
look at
mean,
like say violence. How many people got drunk and wanted to fight each other versus how many people got high and wanted to fight each other?
I guarantee you that statistic is zero, dude.
Yeah, so yeah, and then there's that, and then there's okay. Now let's look at the health side effects. Like you got alcohol poisoning, liver poisoning, kidney destruction. Uh, several other
You've got
things.
the addiction
Yeah,
aspect of it. Like,
which
marijuana is not an addictive substance. That's proven.
sort of. I look at it like being an adrenaline junkie. Yeah, getting that adrenaline high isn't quote unquote an addiction by the definition of you need it to survive, but it's a mental addiction. Like a lot of people that get high, especially with the more medicinal purposes, like they feel like they can't function without it.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you can.
Yeah.
Like,
No, you absolutely can.
you just, I mean, I look at it like saying like me, like we'll say a more easier concept to understand for people that haven't used marijuana before. Like, let's just say aspirin. I would much rather take an aspirin and not have a headache than ride that headache out.
Yep.
I don't need the aspirin, but I'd much rather have the feeling I have with the aspirin than without it. And
That's fair. Yeah,
it's
yeah,
the
yeah.
same thing with marijuana, where it's I don't need it, but I'd much rather have the feeling with it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but at the same time, right? Like, kicking a true legitimate addiction is very, very different.
Well, yeah, because that's your body wanting
Yeah.
it.
Like,
That's
you're not going to have, like, any physical
what?
side effects of not
Didn't I?
smoking marijuana after, doing it for 6
I
months
mean,
straight.
you might be irritable or something, but yeah, your body isn't going to be going through withdrawals and stuff like
Yeah,
other
exactly. Yeah.
actual drugs. Which is,
But
yeah,
it's like,
that's
I
what's always
just,
blowing my mind about alcohol versus marijuana. Where it's like,
I just don't understand because there's documented like proof that marijuana isn't as bad as everybody seems to think it is. Like, I doubt this is the case anymore. But back in the day, I know people used to think that smoking marijuana lowered your brain cells, and they had a study that they did to prove it. And so everybody was like, "Oh, it kills your brain cells. It's not good for your brain." And it's like nobody looked at the study. If you look at the study and you see how they came up with those results, it's completely ludicrous. So the way that they did this study and came to this conclusion is they tested it on monkeys. Okay, that's the first problem. Problem
Yeah.
number one. Okay, okay. The way that they did it is they fitted these monkeys with gas masks. Okay, and then they pumped marijuana into these gas masks. Okay, that's problem number two.
Well, you mean they pump the smoke.
Yes, that's problem number two. The reason why that's a problem is because when you fill a gas mask with smoke, you are not losing brain cells from smoking the marijuana. You're losing brain cells from the lack of oxygen.
Yeah, but that's also they tested cigarettes back then too. It was on
Yeah.
monkeys smoking. So
Well, yeah.
I mean, they looked at it like, oh, let's test all these smoking inhalation products the same way and see what the
Yeah.
results are. It's like, okay,
Yeah, but the way you're testing it is entirely wrong.
yeah.
Entirely.
Well, again, I
And
mean,
it's
they
like,
based all
but
these
there
laws off
have
of
been,
old studies, you know. So
yeah,
it's,
I mean, but there's been multiple like recent new studies that show all of the benefits. Like there are so many benefits. Like people with mental disabilities are quote unquote, and I use this term lightly, normal again,
functional.
right? Like functional. Like people with severe like Tourette's or like what's that one that what's his name has from Back to the Future?
Something like ball
Um,
palsy or something. Or
no, well, even with cerebral palsy and like Parkinson's.
Parkinson's. That's
Yeah, Parkinson's. It is known to like it's been shown to like offset the symptoms of Parkinson's. Like that's fucking insane.
yeah. Which with it's almost like, let's say alcohol did that. That's fine, but you can't do anything else while you're consuming alcohol, and
Right, but
alcohol's destroying your body at the same time. So it's
exactly.
like,
Whereas with marijuana, you can do it, and you can still function like a normal human being.
mostly.
Most people.
Well, no,
I
not
know
most
I
people. I'm
can.
saying most. No, I'm saying mostly. It's much like anything. It's with moderation.
Well,
You
yeah,
know?
everything in moderation. But here's the thing. Here's the other kicker, right? Studies have also shown that it's not possible to overdose on marijuana. It's not
Yeah, but we're not
possible.
talking about overdose. We're talking about functioning, much the same way
Well,
as
yeah.
like I can take 2 shots of liquor and drive my car around town just fine. But if I drink half the bottle, I'm
Don't drink and
probably not
drive.
making it.
No, don't drink and drive. Period. Don't
Well,
drink
I'm
and drive.
saying that's the same thing with smoking,
Yeah.
where you do it in moderation, you're fine. You start hotboxing in the car before you go for a drive, and it's probably not going to work out very well. Your reaction times aren't going to be very strong. So I mean, again, if you're using it for the same way you would say smoke cigarettes, enough to get a feeling from it, and then ride that feeling until it starts to go away, and then get a little more of that feeling back. The same way you like feed a nicotine addiction.
Yeah.
Or same way, if you have chronic headaches, you take an aspirin when you need it. You don't just keep fucking pounding an aspirin every 30 fucking
Yeah.
minutes.
Well, I mean,
I mean,
that's even a thing with nicotine now. Like people are starting to see benefits of nicotine and stuff now, which is unheard of. People always thought nicotine was just so bad, and it's like the reality of it is it's actually not. Just because something is addictive doesn't automatically make it bad. Like here, I'm gonna see what this study said about nicotine. Here, hold on, I gotta find it. Oh, where is it? I'm having trouble finding it. I just saw it like a couple of days ago too. Where is it?
Some kind of weird. Ah. Don't mind the camera. Decided
Okay, here we go. I found it.
look at things. Oh my god.
Nicotine is what they call neuroprotective. Nobody is saying that everybody should use it, but it increases acetylcholine and dopamine and epinephrine. It leads to heightened focus, improved memory, and can offset neurodegeneration in like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's disease. Like these are like proven like things that nicotine can do for somebody. And it's like, yeah, okay, it's an addictive substance, sure, but does that make it bad? Why does that make it bad?
Well, the fact that it's addicting doesn't make it bad. It's all the other problems.
It's the manner in how you get it.
Yeah,
bad.
Because again, if you're smoking a cigarette with all the other carcinogens in it, it's not very good for you. But if you use it like, say, let's say like CBD oil or something, you get like a nicotine lotion.
That's the point I'm trying to make, though, right? Like when somebody says nicotine, it's like, oh, you got a problem with nicotine. It's like, I don't think it's a problem. And they immediately relate nicotine to like cigarettes because that's what it's, most really related to. And it's like, but you're missing the point here.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not, I don't have a cigarette addiction. I have a nicotine addiction.
Yeah.
it's different.
I could get it from patches, gum, cream.
Yeah. Which is why I'm so thankful. Well, I use thankful lightly because there's a lot of things about it that I don't like. About the vape stuff. Like, what bothers me about vape is I've been around and I've been partaking in it since it really, I wouldn't say since it started, but since it began, since it took off, since it started to take off, right? I mean, back when I started it, they all of them looked like this, like these little nicotine sticks.
I mean, they had those though back when I was like in junior high. So
yeah, and you used to be able to buy them in the gas station. They look like they had plastic cigarettes, and they had a little blue light on the end.
Yeah, they called it electronic cigarettes.
Yeah, an electronic cigarette. Yeah, and so I remember back in those days, and like I understood. It's kind of like the rape whistle paradox. I like to call it. Right.
What?
I'll explain. Okay, so I call it the rape whistle paradox. Hear me out. Okay.
You call it that, or that's a thing?
I call it that. But I'll tell you why I call it that, okay? Think about it in the stance of a company that makes rape whistles, okay? You start this company, I'm going to make sure every woman in the world carries my rape whistle. And it's like, okay, great. What happens when all the women have rape whistles now? Yeah. Now you're not selling any. Now it's no good. Now this whole fucking business is going down the drain. This fucking sucks. I hate it. So it's good intentions, but it didn't work out, right? So the same thing with vape. Like the intention for the invention of this was pure. I think it was noble. It was a way to get people off of the carcinogens and shit from cigarettes to better their lives. But now it's gotten to a point where I have a big problem because it's being pushed in a manner that is way outside of its purpose. Like I know people that vape that never smoked. Now they have this nicotine addiction, which again, not necessarily a bad thing, but now they have this, addiction that they don't need for what? It's like, I'm using this for a purpose. I have a fucking problem. Okay.
Well, yeah, but you can also stop that problem.
A problem for yourself, right? Like,
yeah.
It's like I don't like the fact that it is as popular as it is, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like vaping has become like the cool thing to do, and it's like it's
Well,
not though. It's not.
I don't necessarily think that's. I mean, yeah, that is part of it. That's also a lot of. We go down the whole road of things that are quote unquote cool to do. We'll stick with not getting that derailed. We'll say with vaping.
Yeah.
I feel like it's the appeal of kind of like, let's say the first time, like before vaping, when it was just cigarettes. Your buddy or even your parents, your uncle or whatever, whoever was influencing you said, "Hey, you want to try this cigarette?"
Yeah.
And you tried it, and you're like, you either thought, "Oh, that's the worst fucking thing ever, and I never want to do it again," or you're like, "Oh, that was a pretty good feeling. I like that feeling. I might try it again sometime." And then you tried it again and again, and then you just started smoking.
See,
Well,
mine came in my problem came in a different way. I fucking tried it because I was like, everybody else is doing it. They say that it helps them out with
well,
stress and stuff.
yeah.
I'm stressed. I'm gonna try it. I hated it.
Well,
I hated it.
that's what I'm getting at. If I can finish my point, I'm saying that when your only option was cigarettes, you were either gonna like that feeling enough to overcome the shittiness of smoking cigarettes,
Yeah.
or you're just gonna be like, yeah, I like the feeling, but not enough to deal with that.
Yeah.
But now you have an option where it's kind of reminds me of like alcohol. There's people that don't like the taste of beer or alcohol or liquor, but by God, you make the right mixed drink and it tastes like you're drinking Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with vaping, where it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I would never smoke cigarettes, but goddamn, I'll puff on some root beer smoke. Like,
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the other thing that kind of bothers me, it's like when it's like they'll say, "Oh, well, it's better for me than cigarettes," and it's like, well, yeah, sure, right, but at the same time, it's also that doesn't mean that it's like free from risk, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it's still bad for you.
It's still bad for you. It's not. It's not as bad for you as cigarettes, but it's still bad for
Yeah,
you.
I mean, even if
You know?
nicotine has some kind of benefits, it also is making your body addicted to something, which is
Yeah,
a
exactly.
negative
Right.
effect, regardless.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
but I do get it when you're like, hey, this product can help you be a little bit more calmer, help you with stress. You know, like the benefits of nicotine can be appealing, and especially 1,000 times more appealing when you're like, hey, you can get this calming drug that's readily available in your fingertips. You can use it anywhere, in the car, in your home, at work, you know, depending on office rules. You know, theoretically, use it anywhere versus cigarettes, and you can get it in any flavor you want.
Yeah.
You pick your favorite anything. I could probably find a brisket flavored fucking vape out there if I wanted to.
Probably could, yeah.
So, I mean, just throwing that randomness out there, you know, where it's like, it doesn't have to be, you know, candy or sweet or anything. I'm sure there's some savory ones out there as well.
Yeah. Well, I
And
mean,
I
you
mean,
also have to think about it too, right? Like, okay, everybody's always talking about alcohol and nicotine and some drugs in some case, but it's like, what about the most addictive substance on our planet that 90% of our population is addicted to? Caffeine.
yeah.
Like, caffeine is an addictive substance, and it has everybody, everyone, by the balls, everyone.
To some degree. Some a lot more than others, like me.
Yeah,
But
sure. Yeah.
mine's also counterbalancing sleep apnea that I refuse to address. So,
Yeah, that sounds like a you problem, my guy.
hey, I could either sleep with this machine or pop 2 caffeine
Dude.
pills first thing in the morning.
Here's the thing, man. Talk about the machine for a second. We're gonna derail again. So I went and I got to the sleep doctor. I finally got my CPAP machine. I told you about this. I've had my CPAP machine for a while now. My doctor messaged me about 3 months after I got it because it like remote syncs up to their system, so they can see my data as you know I sleep. And they messaged me like, "Hey, you haven't been using your CPAP. What's going on?" And so I was like, "Well, I'd like to talk to you about it, but let me make an appointment." And I'm like, "Okay." So I made an appointment. I went and talked to him. I was like, "Look, here's the deal. This CPAP machine just isn't going to work for me. I'm taking it off unconsciously in my sleep. Like it's not comfortable. I get worse sleep trying to get comfortable wearing it than I do just not wearing it. I was like, I'd really like to go the avenue of the surgery.
Yeah.
And so the doctor was like, oh, well, you're not going to see the same benefits that you're going to see from using a CPAP machine. And I was like, yeah, but I was like, well, the problem with the CPAP machine is I sleep with my mouth open. I breathe through my mouth when I sleep because I have a deviated septum in my nose. It is very difficult to breathe out of my nose at any time. Only one nostril works at a time. That's just how my life is. And like, oh, well, we can just get you a strap to put around your chin to keep your mouth closed, and we can get you some of this tape that you put over to keep your lips shut. And I'm like, okay, so let me get this straight. You want me to wear this mask over my face, a strap around my chin, and tape over my mouth, and you want me to sleep like that every night and be comfortable? It's like, at that point, no. Like, the benefits that the CPAP are going to give me are going to be counterbalanced by the fact that I'm going to be so damn uncomfortable, I'm not sleeping. It's like, at this point, I would rather just have the surgery and get the diminishing returns than to do all this other fucking bullshit. And she was like totally against it. I was like, why? This doesn't make any, like, no, I just want you to try it. It's like, no, I'm not doing it.
It's funny because I mentioned the surgery to my doctor and he was like, yeah, sure. Let me put in a consult for you. The problem is you can only get that surgery if you're at less a certain amount of incidence per hour or under.
Oh, I qualify.
I am far from qualifying because
I qualify.
I have like 110 per hour, and you can only have like 30 or something per hour to qualify for the surgery. So it's like,
oh, really? They told you that, huh?
Yeah, that's what I say. You have to be like
mild,
like mild or normal, and I'm extreme.
Okay. That's what my doctor said too. They were like, that's really meant that surgery is really designed for people with mild sleep apnea. Yours is more on the extreme side, so you're going to get diminishing returns for it. It's not going to be as beneficial for you as the actual CPAP machine. And I was like, at this point, I don't care. Anything is better than nothing, And now, as we're sitting, it's nothing.
I would suggest, I don't know which type of mask you're using, but have they suggested I think it's called like Dreamwear or something. It's super, like, night and day difference between the standard mouth breather mask. I think it's called like Dream Sense or something. Let me see.
Dreamwear full face mask.
See.
Okay, I see. Yeah. Okay, so that doesn't even cover. Okay, it does cover your nose.
No, it covers your mouth. And here, I got a picture of it. I don't know if you're looking at the same one. I'm looking at a
picture of it. It's got the little bumpers that go directly up into your nose.
Yeah, so there's holes right there.
Yeah.
So you can't really. I don't know if you can see them on the pictures you're looking at, but so there's holes right there where that rubber groove goes up against your nose. So you're still able to breathe through your nose and your mouth, but it's just a much smaller apparatus, and it's much more. The whole setup is much more comfortable, and because the tube is coming out of the top of your head instead of on your face, it's much easier to sleep with as well.
Is that the one that you're using?
Yes and no.
One that you have?
I had it. I ended up giving it to a guy at work that doesn't have insurance.
Yeah. I looked up the Dreamwear full face mask, and in the sponsored, it shows up the one that I actually use. It's the ResMed AirTouch F20.
It's probably the one I had before. But if you don't know, for any other person that's a veteran with CPAP, the VA will. I've talked to the people that like order them for you. You can order all you want.
Yep.
Every single model. You could order one, get it the next day, be like, I want this other one. And you can tell them which one you want, and they'll order it for you for free.
I got, they gave me the full setup, the machine, the tubes, the replacement, the mask. And after like a couple of days, I didn't like the material that was like the sealing around the mask that I was using. So I went back to the VA. I was like, hey, I don't like this material. Do you have a different one? They just, here's two of them.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Here's the. I gave you this one. This is the other one, and this is another one. You could try this one too. See which one you like, and you can have them both.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
And
it's,
the machine that they gave me is like top of the line, like fucking badass CPAP machine. Like this thing makes absolutely no noise, none at all whatsoever. It is completely silent. It's got
I
like a
mean,
humidifier built into it, so like your mouth doesn't get dry and shit. Like it is top of the line. Bluetooth connects to my phone. Like,
yeah. I mean, you probably have one that's just like mine. But yeah, I mean, it's a great machine. But I went through my second sleep study back in like September, and they decided that I would be better. They tested me with a BiPAP machine instead of a CPAP.
what's a
And
BiPAP? I've never heard of that.
I don't remember the technology difference, but it's, I guess, like one CPAP like just forces air, and I think a BiPAP does both. Almost like
Like an iron lung.
yeah, where I think it does both. I can't remember, but
So the one that I have, it automatically adjusts air
oh
pressure based on my sleep pattern.
yeah, that's what CPAP does. So CPAP
Yeah.
adjusts pressure going in. BiPAP adjusts the pressure for going in and out.
Interesting.
Uh, yeah, so basically, yeah, just works better for me, I guess.
Yeah.
What is it? Okay,
No,
here
I
we
might
go.
have to.
Constant set pressure during inhale, pressure relief during exhale. And then BiPAP, constant set pressure during inhale and constant set pressure during exhale. So it's like sucking air, yeah, almost like you said, like an iron lung. It's almost like
Yeah.
sucking air in and out to like help
Interesting.
me breathe out. Whereas the CPAP doesn't help you breathe out, it only helps you breathe in.
Yeah. I might have
And
to ask the VA if I can get one of these Dreamwear masks. I might give it a shot.
yeah, all you gotta do is over here. It's called the Silver Team or something that does sleep apnea, and you
Yeah.
literally
Well, I
just
mean,
call them and say, "Hey, I want this
I
one."
was gonna say I can go on to myhealthyvet.com and just message the doctor and be like, hey, can you
Yeah,
send me one of these?
but yeah, it was super comfortable. I gave it to the other veteran. Well, he's sort of a veteran. He's not technically a veteran. Actually, I think I did prove that he technically is. He just doesn't like calling himself one. Because I looked
Oh, is
up
it?
like the actual like requirements to be a veteran, and it's like X amount of days in the military makes you a veteran.
Yeah.
And like technically, he like met the day cutoff, but he also technically, I don't think ever made it out of like AIT.
Yeah.
So he doesn't call himself a veteran, but I still treat him as such, sort of. But anyway, I gave him that Dreamwear because I've given him my like other masks because, like you said, they just hand them out like they're fucking free samples.
Yeah.
So like he's asked me before, like, you got any spare masks? I'm like, "Man, I got like 3 over here. I'm never gonna use here."
Yeah.
And and then he asked me again, and I was like, well, I got this one. It's a whole different type, and again, I'm not using it. So here, I can order another one. So then he started using it. And he's like, man, like he actually uses his CPAP like every day
Yeah.
for the last several years, and he said that like he's never had a better experience than with that DreamSense one in
Yeah.
all the years that he's been using it.
I might message. I don't know. I'm pretty fucking hell bent on this surgery, man. And like the doctor was like, well, we'll after you give this CPAP stuff a shot, we'll talk about it. But I need a few things from you. You need to change your diet and lose some weight. I was like, that's fine. You
Yeah,
tell me I need to lose some weight to get the surgery, fine. That's all I got to do. Done. Right? But if you're gonna try and force me to try and wear this fucking, chin restraint, mouth tape, and fucking mask for fucking 6 months, I'm gonna tell you to go fuck yourself and not do it. Like, just
I'd
not.
I'd recommend trying that DreamSense one out. Like I said,
Yeah.
I kind of have the same problem, which is why I went for another sleep study. And I thought for the longest time I was waiting for them to change my machine to do BiPAP, but apparently it's a whole nother fucking machine.
Yeah.
So I've been waiting all this time. Somebody finally gets back with me, like, no, we need to send you a whole new setup. I'm like, well, goddamn. Like, fine. I've been over here waiting for you to, like, change the programming or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I need to get on top of that too. But the sad thing about the VA is it's like 8 to 5 is their hours, and it takes like roughly an hour to get a hold of somebody on the phone. And
Yeah,
I
that's
work
true.
8 to 4. So it's like you don't even open till I start work. You're only open Monday through Friday. I only work Monday through Friday. Like, it's just practically impossible for me to actually call the VA. I'd almost have to like pre-call them 30 minutes before the end of my shift with an earbud in my ear or something.
Yeah, I had a run in with the VA just recently that's been pissing me off. I'm still dealing with it. So like years ago when I got out of the military, you know how they send you through that row of tests and physicals and stuff just to make sure you get out medically sound.
Yeah.
Um, they did a bunch of tests on my eyes and stuff like that, and they found out that I actually have torn retinas. And so when they told me, I was like asking the doctor, I was like, okay, so what do I do about that? Like, what does that mean? Does that mean that I'm just eventually going to go fucking blind? Like, is there something to fix it? Like, what's the deal here? And they're like, well, it's mild, so it's not really anything that we can do about it right now. It's like, but if you're conscious about it, you ever get like floaters in your vision?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So he was like, those floaters, if you start to notice them like more bigger, like, and start seeing them more often, you might want to come in and have us take a look, because that means that it could possibly be progressing.
Hmm.
And so I've noticed more recently. It's like every time I look at my computer monitor, I see floaters now, and it's like, well, fuck. It's like I need to go to the doctor and have him take a look. And so I call the VA. I was like, hey, I need to make a optical appointment. This was 3 weeks ago, right? It's like, hey, I need to make an optical appointment. Talk to the doctor about my torn retinas. I'm seeing some more floaters. I want to get it looked at. They're like, okay, well, we can't get you in until middle of July. I was like, what? Middle of July? I was like, okay, well, can I go to like community care? Like find somebody out in the community. And they're like, well, yeah, you can do that. Here's this number. Go call this number, and they'll set you up. You qualify for that because of how late the appointment is.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, cool. So I call the number, sit on hold for 45 minutes, right? Finally get on the phone with somebody, and the guy's like, oh, well, we can't just like make you an appointment. You have to be referred from the doctor.
Yeah. Just like the sleep study. You can't just call the sleep study guy. You gotta.
I was like, okay, so you're telling me I gotta wait until July to see the doctor so that he can refer me.
No, they're talking about like you call your primary doctor, the VA, and they submit a referral to.
Oh,
that
well,
group.
yeah. But either way, it's like, why does this process have to be so damn complicated?
I mean, it's not really complicated, because if you could just go there whenever you felt like it, it wouldn't make any logical sense.
Well, right, but if you are telling me, right, that I'm eligible for community care because the appointments available are too far in the future, when I call the community care number, they should be like, oh, yeah, you want to see a vision doctor? Okay, they don't have any openings until July. You qualify.
Yeah,
let's make you an appointment.
but you're in the assumption that every community care hospital in the world is going to have access to the VA's appointment system to verify that.
Well, I didn't call.
That's not
like,
their
I
job.
didn't. No, I didn't call like the optometrist that I wanted to go see. I called the VA department that makes the appointments out in the community.
No,
They
I thought
call they call the optometrist and make the appointment for the veteran.
No, when you say community care, I thought you meant the civilian health organization called community care.
No.
Okay. That's all I was like, no, you can't just call community care. You got to have a referral to community care. But because over here, there's an organization called community care that the VA can refer me to.
Yeah, no, like, so they were like, you need to call our community care department. That's this number right here, and they'll get you set up with an appointment. And it's like, so I call the department. It's like, hey, your people over here at the KDVA said that I qualify for community care. I need to make an appointment for this vision because there's not one until July. And they were like, oh, well, you got to get a referral from your doctor. We can't just make you an appointment. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've run into that. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about the VA. It's not as bad as everybody says it is,
Agreed,
as
100%.
long as you stay on it.
Yeah,
There's sometimes everything works out like normal. You call and they're like, oh yeah, sure, bam, here you go. And there's other times like you were saying, like even like my most recent sleep study, I called, and the first part was like, yeah, sure, let's set up an appointment. Boom. Like, because I asked about the surgery, so he's like, well, come in, we'll talk about it. I came in, and he's like, yeah, we'll probably just put you for another sleep study. It's been like 2 or 3 years since you had one. Let's do another one, get a full, current assessment, and see where you're at and what our options are. And like, super simple beginning process. Let's get this
yeah,
done. And they're like, you can either go, like all the way to like an hour drive away, or go to the sleep study place that's here in Bartlesville. And I was like, well, I'd rather go to the one in Bartlesville. And it's the same thing. They're like, okay, we'll have our like outside the VA department call you,
interesting.
like kind of like you did. They're like this other group you were gonna have to go through for the vision.
Yeah,
But rather than just sit and wait, I gave it about a week. It was like, hey, somebody's supposed to fucking call me. What the fuck's going on? And they're like,
yeah,
oh shit, nobody called you yet? I'm like, boom, they made the call, and then somebody called me like that day. So it's
yeah,
like if you just, I think the problem is in the military, you're trained to hurry up and wait
yeah,
till you die.
yeah,
So, but then what's funny is I see a lot of veterans do this where like they'll do something like that, like, oh well, they said they're gonna call me, I'll wait
yeah. I'll wait until they call.
forever, and then get pissed and complain about it anytime somebody mentions it because, well, I've been waiting 6 fucking weeks and ain't nobody called me. Like, well, have you called back? Well, no,
Yeah,
I shouldn't have to. You're like, well, yeah, in a perfect world, you shouldn't have to. But by God,
yeah,
if I drop my car off for an oil change and that motherfucker hasn't called me by 4:30 and they close at 5, I'm
yeah,
calling him. Like,
yeah,
is my car gonna be ready? I'm not just gonna wait for him to call me.
yeah, yeah,
Shit. It's the same thing with the VA, Treat the VA like you're dropping your car off at the shop. Are you just gonna sit there and hurry up and wait until they call you?
yeah. I
Or are
mean,
you gonna
my
call them
my
back?
problem, my problem with it is like it's at the point right now where it's like I'm almost certain that if I call the VA back and be like, hey, I called this number to get community care, I said I get a referral from the doctor, and it's like, no, 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 you could just call them, and it's like, oh my god, I don't want to have this conversation.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to try and fight you on who I'm supposed to call. I just want a fucking appointment made. like, like it shouldn't be that difficult.
Shouldn't. No. But sometimes you gotta just I don't know. Make it happen. That's how I look at it. Like if you want the care, follow the fucking rigmarole and get
Yeah.
it done. I mean,
Jump the red tape. Do what you got to do.
I look at like I said. And then there's things like me where it's like, yeah, if you drag your feet, the VA will drag their feet right fucking with you.
Yep.
And don't get mad at them because they're doing it when you're doing it also.
Yep.
Like you can get shit done with the VA. You just gotta learn to stay on them, just like you gotta stay on the fucking mechanic, work on your car. If you leave it up to him, he's gonna get to it when he gets to it. But anyway,
Call that mother every 4 hours. You know, he's
yeah,
gonna fucking get it done.
yeah. Yeah, granted, you don't want to badger him. Same concept.
Yeah.
You don't want to call the VA every day.
Yeah.
Give them some
Because then
time.
they'll just fucking make you wait just for the fuck of it.
Yeah.
Just because you're pissing them off.
But on that note, the VA is great as long as you know how to
Yep.
work it.
Yep.
We are at the end of our time, though. If there's any points you'd like to recap on or anything.
No, no recap. I think we covered everything I had planned. There were a couple more things on the list, but nothing super crazy. Nothing super interesting.
Now that we've had a 30-minute lesson on how to work the VA.
Yeah. Well, hey, this is what we do. This is part of
So-
our mission as a nonprofit is to assist people through these processes.
Yeah.
So
And again,
if
we
you're
might not be
watching-
experts on the VA,
Right.
but we could
Yeah.
share our
If you're-
experiences and maybe it'll help you out.
If you're watching and you're having issues, let us know. We have a lot of knowledge.
Yeah. And we may have, we might not have the direct knowledge, but much like other
We
things
can
in
find the
life,
answer.
yeah, I might know somebody who knows the answer. Or,
Yeah.
I do have, what am I at now? 13 years of working with the VA.
Yep.
You know,
Not for me. I
again,
don't have that long, but
yeah, so I'm no expert at it, but we're a veteran community, so even if me and Dragon here don't know the answers, there's probably somebody in our community that might. So, but on that note, yeah, that's gonna be it for our stream. Hope you enjoyed it. A little bit of sci-fi, science knowledge, a little bit of VA education,
yeah,
and 3D printing work,
rigmarole.
which hopefully that thing's working over there.
Shenanigans.
It's always interesting. You can't tell if it's actually working until it's like 25% done. And then it pulls just enough out of that container for you to be like, shit, there's nothing there. Which is really awkward when you're doing like a 10-hour print and you gotta wait an hour.
Well, it's like it always pissed me off when I'm printing things on my FDM printer and I'm watching it for like the first 20 minutes just to make sure that everything sets and sticks to the plate.
But in the
cool.
first 60 seconds whether it's working or not. I gotta wait like 40
like,
minutes sometimes to find out it never started.
It's like I spend that first 60 seconds. All right, cool, running good. I can walk away. I come back 3 hours later and it's just a ball of fucking yarn. You're like, son of a bitch! Yeah. I even sat here and took the time to make sure it was gonna go right, and it didn't.
That's the difference I have with the resin printer. Once I pass the 25% mark, I know I ain't gotta worry about shit for the rest of the print. The fucking FDM though, man. Anytime between 1% and 99, that thing can just go haywire. Yeah. Which is my next thing. I need to fix the FDM printer. But for now, resin printer's hopefully back up and running, so we are ready to take the rest of our May orders for those that want to sign up or donate and get some printing time. We're always accepting orders.
Yeah. But if you haven't already, follow us here on Twitch. Go check out our YouTube. Follow our on Facebook. Check out our website. We've got a lot of cool resources like we were talking about for veteran help. We've got links to, DAV, vet tickets, all kinds of different stuff that provide resources. So, look us up and come find us on Discord. We're always in there gaming. So if you like to game, come hit us up.
Yep, and that's where we're going now.
Yep.
So we'll see you all next week. Continue on for a whole nother round of different topics.
Yep.
Till then, have a good night, a good weekend. Hope to see you next week.
Yep. Good night.
Good night.